In Parshas Bo, we come to the conclusion of the institution of the Makos, of the plagues. These plagues, these Makos, were brought upon the Egyptian people, the Mitzrim, by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, these supernatural Makos, plagues. And the reason why they were brought, of course, was to push the hand of Paro in order to put him into a position in which he would let the Bnei Yisrael go from slavery to freedom. It was the 10th Makkah, the final Makkah, the final plague, that really brought Paro to his knees, and that he let Bnei Yisrael go. And it was this Makkah, the plague of the firstborn, the death of all firstborn, Makas Bechoros, that really ended the entire institution. And within this Makkah, in the description of this Makkah, we find and learn that there is a lesson for us to learn about a character trait that is one that we need to constantly be aware of, because it refines us as people if we are aware of it. And it's found based on the following pasuk. The pasuk describes the Makkah Bechoros umeis kol Bechor be'eretz Mitzrayim, that each Bechor, each firstborn in Eretz Mitzrayim, in the land of Egypt, would die. Of course, this was separate except the Jewish Bechors. Mibchor Paro Yoshev al Kiso, from the Bechor of Paro who sat on his seat, Ad Bechor HaShifcha Sharachar Rechaim, until, meaning including, the firstborn of the Shifcha, of the maidservant, V'chol Bechor Behema, and also any firstborn animal. So Rashi asks a question on this pasuk, and Rashi says, V'lama laku b'nei hashfachos. Why did the sons of the maidservants, why were they included in the Makkah of Bechoros, in the plague, the death of the firstborn? They were powerless. It would seem that they were sons of Shvachos, sons of maidservants. They weren't equal to Mitzrim. They weren't equal to all the other Egyptians. The other Egyptians were the ones who enslaved the Jewish people. But maidservants, they themselves were slaves. So why were their sons also included in this plague as opposed to being spared? So Rashi answers his question and says, Sha'af heim hayu mishtabdim bahem, that the maidservants, meaning the Bnei Hashvachos, the sons of the maidservants, would also enslave the Jewish people. One explanation of Rashi, and then he concludes by saying, Usmechim bitzarasam. And I think this is the critical factor. Usmechim, and they, meaning the sons of the firstborn, sons of the maidservants, were happy bitzarasam, in seeing the tzara, in seeing the pain, the difficulties of the Jewish people. They were happy to see it. Meaning, so even if they weren't involved hands-on in enslaving the Jewish people, the reason why they're brought to task, the reason why the firstborn of the maidservants are included in the plague and were destined to death in the Makkah Bechoros, was because of the fact that they were joyous when seeing the tsaros, when seeing the difficulties of Klal Yisrael. And if we say that regarding maidservants in Mitzrayim, I believe that it's applicable to each and every one of us, even when we speak, Rachmana litzlan, how sad it is to even say these words, but even when we speak about our own fellow Jews, our own brethren, people who we live with, sometimes, heaven forbid, even family members, we've heard the words, I wish them only well. But do we mean that? Look, we can't get along with everyone in life. People have different personalities. There are some times we're in conflict with people. But ultimately, we should never wish anything bad upon someone. But there's another layer. Okay, we don't wish anything bad. But semechim b'tzarasam. Semechim b'tzarasam means that when I see someone going through a difficulty, there's part of me that's happy that they're going through that difficulty. Do you know what they did to me? Do you remember how they insulted me? Do you know what kind of person they are? You know what? They get what's coming to them. That's called smechim b'tzarasam. That's called being happy when someone else is in tsar. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says there is no use and no need for that. And that one is called to task for it. And the example is the fact that the Bechor, the firstborn of the maidservants were included in the Makas Bechoros because they were brought to task for being happy and seeing the Tsar and seeing the struggle of the Jewish people. Al Achas Kama V'Kama, how much more so do we need to look at our own personal middos, and even someone who may have had conflict with currently or in the past. We can never look at anyone experiencing tsar, experiencing difficulty, experiencing pain on any level, and be happy. That's not what a Jew does. A Jew feels the pain of someone else, and if we can't feel the pain of someone else, then let's just not look. But to be happy when someone else suffers, that's not the way a Jew acts. That's a lesson about our own middos today, is brought to us from this lesson of the Makas Bechoros in Parshas Bo. Thank you for listening, and have a good Shabbos. May we all be zocheh to look at and to see and understand the greatness of each other.